All right.
Keep going. Just read it out.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about Gravity, which last year had an average critic rating of 9 out of 10, which is pretty high. Gravity was one of the critical darlings of last year, and I have to 100% agree with that. The film is basically telling the story of an astronaut stranded in space following the mid-orbit destruction of their space shuttle. It was the 8th highest grossing film of 2013, picking up $716 million box office worldwide, which is a hell of a lot of money. The tales of production regarding the film are numerous in length and would take a whole podcast just to get through them all, and we just spent 40 minutes on Aliens, so I'm kind of curious about the length of this. Director Alfonso Cuarón. A doodle of names, has publicly come out and said that some liberties had to be taken with the story and that the film was still a perfect piece of fiction.
Wait, people were confused of whether it was fiction?
Oh, no, people came out and just bitched really hard about the science, and so he came out and responded with saying, hey, it's fiction.
So it couldn't be real. At the 86th Academy Games, Gravity won
Academy Games?
Awards.
Good God.
That was freaking awesome.
It's like Hunger Games? Yes.
Jeez.
But the directors have to wrestle.
The producers have to fight each other. That'd be so great. I'd pay to watch that. I'd pay to watch
shut up. Let's screw it up, okay?
That's okay.
The Academy Awards, I remember Tom and I were broadcasting this. Gravity won 77. Jesus.
70. Holy crap, they're amazing.
7 awards, including Best Director.
Yeah, I won a lot of awards.
I'll start with this then, even though I've been butchering my lines. I really loved this movie. Out of all the 3 films, I'm the one who picked this movie, but this was my favorite movie of last year, 2013. It was something that I watched about 10 times. It is just a brilliant movie in my eyes. I loved it.
10 out of 10 would watch it again.
Exactly. I loved this movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay. I enjoyed this movie.
This is actually
I would not watch it 10 times.
This is actually the first time I got to rewatch it since seeing it in 3D in theaters. It did not hold up for me as well. I mean, 3D, this thing was such an experience for me. I could
imagine because I saw it at home, but
it was in 3D. I just remember sitting in the theater and having an asthma attack. I'm like, wait, am I actually having an asthma attack at this point? This thing is so intense. And it's such an experience film. It is a film you have to actually see to really understand.
Wait, was that meant to be a compliment? Because you seem to suggest that watching Gravity induces asthma attacks.
No.
Which sounds not very positive.
It was positive because no film has ever really done that for me.
No, I agree with that. And basically when you're watching through this, you're glued. You almost immediately form a bond with the characters in this movie, and they literally, even though I found it funny because it's based in our atmosphere, which really, other than the satellite, space has nothing in it. And they brought so much into this movie based on a space of nothing, and I just thought that was incredible and such a cool experience for this film. I mean, it's really different in terms of sci-fi movies in general.
Yes, I agree with that. I think it was a very interesting movie. The effects were fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It was great to see what they did with everything.
Yeah,
although I agree with the characters being well developed. The characters being well developed. So, but instead you kind of have a situation where instead of being characters, as actual characters in the movie, they're just playing themselves. It's not some guy playing George Clooney. It's just George Clooney. And it's just Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock and George Clooney are Hollywood royalty, and it's amazing.
It's true. And you know what? I'm not whining. They do a great job. It did what it needed to do. Because at its core, this is not a movie about character. This is a movie about shit blowing up in really awesome ways.
It's basically about the experience. It's a sense through the character, but mostly for yourself. You're kind of almost feeling as if you're experiencing it with them. They're just there to guide you. You're not really supposed to attach to them.
It's funny because this is the first Cuarón movie that I actually liked, which is hilarious. I probably should turn in my cinephile card right now, but I don't. I fully recognize I'm the weirdo who doesn't like Children of Men, and is never.
At the very least, you should get a warning stamp on the back. You like Daenerys?
Damaris. Didn't like Aliens, didn't like Children Men, didn't know like the third Harry Potter movie. Just shut it down. Like,
whoa, you didn't like the third? I'm just kidding.
No, but, I mean, this is the first one I really enjoyed because it was the first one that I really understood what makes Cuarón so great. And what makes him great is that when he doesn't really care about making some big philosophical point, when he's just kind of letting things happen,
he's fun to watch.
He's beyond it. I want him to make a generic Western just because I feel like he'd be so good at it. Like, this film is basically kind of like it is a disaster movie in space, but it's also just this thing that just happens. Whereas, like, everything else kind of builds all this, like, ridiculous, I don't know, freaking verisimilitude that he's not good at.
Yeah.
In other words, there's no... The story itself is the act of survival, rather than anything else.
No, it is, and I don't know, it was funny. I watched it with my mom, too, for over Mother's Day. And it was probably the best moment of rewatching this with her was, she was like, that thing's probably better than 12 Years a Slave. I laughed so hard.
Yeah.
Wow, that movie was depressing. But
I really don't like that.
I think in terms of, like, what you're saying, though, I think it is sort of guided a little bit, but I kind of like the freedom of it. That's also what makes it such a good film, is that, like, even though, like, you have to have a guided script in a movie, because there are many movies that you could probably watch and be like, did they even give two thoughts about this? But this one, you obviously, like, you have to give a certain thought, but, like, when you're a director and you just kind of have a film that's just like, here's some guidelines, here's someone to guide you through it, here you go, experience the ride. Kind of like when you're on a roller coaster, you don't exactly, like, it's set out, but you don't, like, it could do anything, and you don't really know what's going to happen. And as a sitter, and he's just like, here's the cart to guide you.
And that's what the director for this movie should do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it should basically be like, you have to be this tall to watch Gravity, have fun. That's basically and that's basically what he does, and that's why
sit down, shut up, and enjoy.
That's why I like it, right? Like,
yeah, it works really well that way.
I mean, it's funny.
It's funny because
it's just funny.
Well,
it's the most funny.
It's predominantly a story about survival, and secondly, a story about Sandra Bullock's character. Apparently, she's been through a major space disaster. I didn't know that about her, but
I know I couldn't.
It was great on those merits. The part I really wanted to see, though, was what was going to happen afterwards when she got back to Earth, and everyone, like, turned to Russia and just went, what did you do? You just blew up everything in all of space. Like,
Gravity 2, everyone gets mad at Russia.
You owe us $100 trillion right now.
Coming soon, rated R.
There is such a war, like, I can't even talk to you, like...
What happens afterwards, though, really doesn't matter, because that's even hinted with the ending, though. Because I was watching this with my family, my sister and my father, and my sister at the end really didn't like the ending of this movie because she said they should have had Sandra walking into town. They should have had her, like, being, like, a survival hero, and I don't think that's needed. Like, all thought of what happens after this story when she crashes into Earth wasn't really needed for me, and that just, like, the ending is satisfying enough with her crashing into Earth.
Well, do we have a celebratory, like, tone somewhere? Sorry, I just hit 10 on face discs.
Nice. No, I get that. The ending took place just after Sandra Bullock completes her character journey.
Yeah.
And comes to grip with actually, trying to fight to be alive and make the most with what she can.
I mean, this thing...
And that's why it's a triumphant ending and you feel good there. But there's this part of me that wants to see the rest of the train wreck.
And that's what makes this ending kind of the perfect ending. And this is kind of the theory I've always had behind great endings. Great endings are things where you know that there can't be any more, but you still want there to be more. Right? And that's kind of what this film has. You know that there's no story after she steps out on the beach. But you want to see what happens with the rest of the
exactly.
movie.
That's exactly
And I think that's basically what makes this ending so brilliant, without a doubt.
Well, I hate to say it, but I have to run about now.
All right.
It's like ending what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what? Okay. You have to run then.
I'm afraid so.
All right. We will catch you later. You want to rank all three films quickly before you leave and give a rating for Gravity.
Okay. I would say Aliens, Gravity, Alphaville. Aliens was really, I would rewatch that a lot. I really enjoyed it. Gravity was very good, but I don't see myself rewatching this often. I think it's had the most impact on first viewing.
It is.
Alphaville.
That's for sure.
Alphaville. Alphaville had a lot of really great ideas, but I think it served best in the book. I didn't feel that it needed to be in a movie to tell me its message.
I ate the thing up like candy. I mean,
I know.
And you didn't finish the whole thing, did you? No, you got
hour 10.
Hour 10. Oh, you got an hour 10 in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a lot better than I thought it was. I thought it was only the first 30 minutes when the guy just died. That was great. But yeah, So let's, you got a rating for Gravity out of 5?
Gravity. I go to 5.
You can go with the full Monty? 5 out of 5?
Yeah.
Full Monty.
It did exact. It achieves everything it needs to achieve to be the film it's trying to be.
Yeah.
And it's a very enjoyable film at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right. So, Michael, we'll catch you later. Kasen, do we have much more to go with than Gravity then, or do you kind of...
I just want to finish my thought on the ending because I really have to contrast what you two are saying.
Go.
Okay. Well, I don't know. For me,
Bye, Michael.
you both say the ending is very much you need it to be for a good ending. You need to have nothing attached together. Everything is attached together. Everything is finished, and you don't have any other wandering ideas. I don't know. For
not
me,
necessarily what I said.
Your beginning in this movie also is not very in depth, right? You don't really know a lot about these characters anyway, and the only thing you would really want to know is what could potentially be a whole other story. So yes, I understand that you do sort of want to know, but I think that this ending works perfectly for what it's setting out to do, just because it ends where it does and leaves us wanting more instead of us leaving the theater going, oh, so that's what happens.
Not necessarily. I mean, what I said was kind of some of that, but not so. I think you misunderstood me. What I meant was...
I think I was going with what Michael said more.
Okay. Yeah, Michael has left the building.
Thank God.
I can't believe I just edited what I've edited into this right now. This is beyond horrible.
That's great.
This is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I have too much fun when Michael's not here. No, and I definitely agree with what you're saying about the story and stuff like that. But what I meant when I said what I said was the ending doesn't have to tie up all the loose ends. Where it ends, it has to end, and you feel like that is the end.
Right.
And I feel like that's what this ending is. There is no more story after she steps on the beach. There is no more story. Even though there's other worlds, there is no more story. Quickly, what would you rate this? What would you rate this out of 5?
I might have to agree with Michael, and it's got to be somewhere either 4.5 or 5 for me. This movie really, in terms of a sci-fi, hit every nail for me and what I expected of it. And it was just an experience for me, and that's really what drove me into it. And I could watch this movie over and over and over.
I mean, based on what you like out of film, this thing is basically your cake.
This is basically making a cake, putting Kasen's name on it, and handing it to me and saying, here, and I would just gobble that thing up.
It's fat. It's action.
On my face.
It's action-packed. It's got nice characters. It makes no sense how they made a lot of it.
Yeah. It's aesthetically beautiful.
Yeah.
The way they made this movie was beautiful. It's just beautiful.
I still don't know how they did a lot of the scenes, and it's one of the more interesting things about this movie. That's why I wrote it would take a whole podcast to just go into what a lot of the scenes were. And I mean, that's why this thing is your cake. Without a doubt, this thing is...
This is my movie.
This is the thing. This is Kasen's film. Without a doubt, this is your movie. I don't know. Curiously, you had this as your number 1 of last year?
Yeah.
Okay,
this is my number 1 film of last year.
I had her as my number 1.
Yeah.
That was my number 1. But that's also
also a really good one.
I also think her is the best movie of the last decade. So
probably.
Her is another film you could technically classify as sci-fi.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. That's why I was thinking about this. We'll get into Alphaville. It's actually kind of a shame Michael had to run because when we talk about Alphaville, I have a lot to say about what Alphaville influenced as well.
We could just scroll back on the comments Michael was reading or writing.
That was great. Michael's commentary track for this thing. One of these days we're going to have to pick a movie and just do a commentary track of it, without a doubt.
We'll do that. What we'll do is we can just sit and watch a movie and have us talk through the movie.
It'll be a bonus episode. We'll find somehow one of us will find a DVD copy of the other animated Titanic movie.
Oh.
And we'll do a conversation based off that.
We can even just sit in front of the computer with a webcam there and just record us sitting there.
Just looking depressed. Just like going,
just start crying.
And me finding like positives and everybody else complaining about them. So on that note, it's probably time to move to... Oh, I didn't do my rating for Gravity. I gave it
what is it?
I give it 4 out of 5. The first time I saw it, I had it at 4.5, and it dropped half a star because I really don't think it works as well in 2D. And it kind of didn't...
I only saw it in 2D.
Oh, you did... If it ever comes back, if it ever plays again at some point in 3D, I'm taking you to go see that, because that thing is, without a doubt, a Swiss watch in 3D. Like,
all right.
I wrote down Swiss watch. Good. Okay. Moving on to Alpha.